Hello, friends, and welcome to the new episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady. And what can happen if you combine an angry Karen and a shop that has an excellent security camera system? Let's find out in our first story. Are you deaf, you stupid lazy SOB? So I'm browsing the shelves at my local grocery store, pawing at the bread to check its softness and freshness as if I'm some sort of squirrel going through the leaves for that elusive, tasty nut when it happened. Much like a squirrel, I was oblivious to most of it. I only learned of the full extent of the damage caused by Hurricane Karen later. So I'm lost in the bread, noticing differences in how each loaf feels while I squeeze them as if I'm gripping precious dinnerware. I don't want to ruin the bread for anyone else, but I need to know how fresh they are. The dates printed on the plastic wrapping aren't always legible, and this puts the decision literally in my own hands. As I continue, I hear someone shouting from some distance away, but I pay it no mind. People yell in stores for all sorts of reasons. I hear it again, a bit louder, and I think to myself, I'm glad I'm not any closer to that person. Like the victim in just about every horror movie ever made, I had no idea that person was already coming closer to me with vicious intent. I stroke 2 loaves of bread, one in each hand, and I'm deciding between them when someone is shouting right next to me. I honestly don't know what was said, but the shock of the volume level so close startled me. Like a house cat, I naturally form a defensive posture when I feel threatened, and I raised my arms and made a startled noise. I don't like it when people come up behind me or beside me and I don't notice. I've been that way since I was a child, which is a longer story than I want to share here. Both loaves of bread go into the air as I put my hands up, ready to defend myself against whatever demon from hell has ruined this grocery trip for me. This particular demon possessed the body of a gray-haired older woman with glasses who reminds me of every stereotypical grandmother image you might see. She's plump but not huge and waving a stubby finger at me. I think maybe she's been scolding me for touching the bread. I'll just explain myself and walk away. No real threat then. I was wrong. As I go to pick up the bread I dropped because of her, the witch does the needless and turns her own volume up to an ear-splitting and screams, "Are you deaf, you stupid lazy son of a bee?" Never one to miss an opportunity to be a smart butt. Once my ears stopped ringing, I replied with, "No, but I might be soon if you don't shut up." Her eyes burned with the fury of 1,000 suns. She reaches out and grabs my wrist. My instincts kick in, and within a couple of seconds, I've got an old lady in a hammerlock, just in time for a manager to come down the aisle. She wails about the horrible employees at the store and acts far more hurt than she could possibly be, claiming I attacked her out of nowhere and her arm is broken. It wasn't, and she was going to be suing the store. Yep, I believe I'm going to jail here. But that was not to be. Apparently, Hurricane Karen, the demon monger, has caused a scene in the grocery store on other occasions. This manager had been watching the video feed in the back, following her every move around the store in anticipation of the fallout to come in her wake. She turns her gale force winds his direction, still shouting about being abused and how what I did to her is worse than rape. WTF. Until the manager looks directly into her eyes and, as calm as the eye of a real hurricane, says, "Would you like me to call the police for you?" She straightens herself and says yes. But then just as calmly and without taking his eyes from hers, the manager says, "Did you forget we have video again? Thought you'd remember from the last time, but we can check it if you'd like." Karen Demon lets loose a half grunt, half scream and waddles away and out of the store faster than I thought possible. The manager asked if I was okay. I was surprised at the whole scenario, but none the worse for wear. Still, he offers me a store gift card for $10, and I accept it. Why look a gift Karen in the mouth? Free bread. And our second story. A series of coincidences. Some years ago, the phone rings at home. Not the listed business number, but the unlisted personal number. Stranger. "Hi, can I speak to Dan about my computer?" Dan's my husband's name, and it just so happens that he's a software engineer and all-around nice guy, so I figured he was helping a friend. Me. "He's not home right now. Can I take a message and have him call you after work?" It's a long, dramatic pause. "Isn't he supposed to help during business hours?" "No, not really." "I'm calling for Dan X. Not my husband, in the IT support department of Large Green Garbage Company. He's supposed to help with my computer." "Where did you get this number?" "From the printed and bound internally distributed company telephone directory. I don't think this is funny. I need this computer working. Connect me with Dan immediately. I hang up. So it was that I began fielding calls over and over from hapless employees at LGGC who all thought they were calling the IT helpline. I called corporate and, after some difficulty, managed to find the person responsible for distributing the phone book. So my unlisted home number is printed in your book, and your people are calling me all day long. No, that's the number for our tech support. I repeat the last sentence a couple of times because you can't fix stupid. Why don't you try calling that number and see what happens? The office worker hangs up and calls. I answer. Oh, so it is your number then. Let me look up the correct number. Oh, no, it's a typo. My apologies. I need you to correct it. I sent several hundred of these to all of our office locations. Replacing it cost hundreds of dollars. We can't do that. Well, then distribute an urgent memo updating the number. I can't do that. I don't have authority to send out anything like that. So my brain finally kicked in, realizing he doesn't want to own up to his mistake. Should be noted that while I was having these conversations, I kept getting voicemail notifications from the company's employees. I hadn't had a moment's peace from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the past week. Okay, fine. Tell you what I'm going to do. Every person who calls from now on, I'm going to tell them to throw their computer in the trash and buy a new one on a purchase order with your name on it. Very long pause. I'll get it fixed. Literally never had another call from them. To clarify, the Dan they wanted was not my husband Dan. That's good revenge. And you saved an idiot employee their job. Well done, OP. And our third story. Shopper wants to attack me. I didn't know this sub existed when I wrote a snippet of this story on another sub a user directed me to, so I'll give you folks the full version. A while back, I was on my way to go on a date in Los Angeles with a girl that I considered a bit out of my league. While driving there, I was drinking a red Gatorade that dribbled down my chin and landed on top of my white undershirt. I was already in another city and wouldn't have had enough time to drive back to my place and change, so I frantically searched my phone for a clothing place nearby, and the closest thing that came up was a Ross. I pulled into the parking lot and hurried inside. When I got into the store, which had multiple aisles of clothes that were short enough that everyone could see over them, I went straight for the men's section to find a solid white shirt. Frantically looking through the first aisle, I couldn't find what I was looking for because of the poor organization of sizes and styles. While looking through the second, I walked by a middle-aged white guy that was giving me the evil eye, and he said, "Really?" and walked away. Not knowing what was wrong with the guy, I ignored him and continued on my search. After about 3 unsuccessful minutes, I decided to go ask someone who worked there if they could help. On my way to do this, I passed by the guy again, and he screamed at the top of his lungs for everyone in the store to hear, "Are you going to effing follow me around everywhere? You effing store security piece of crap!" Now, I'm the type of person that really doesn't like a lot of attention because of social anxiety, and now the entire store's occupants, maybe 30 people, had stopped what they were doing and were staring at me from over the aisles like I was the devil. I quietly said, "I don't work here." And then he replied in an even louder tone, for which I could only assume was in effect to embarrass me further, "You don't work here? You're trying to tell me that you're not loss prevention, you effing scumbag?" Then he took a step forward, now just a few inches from my face, breathing a nasty stench of liquor into my nostrils. Now, I'm not huge by any means, but I'm of adequate size. I knew I could take this guy if I needed to, and at this point I could feel the anger boiling from deep down within and even began to slightly tremble with adrenaline. "I don't effing work here, and now you're starting to piss me off." I said it with a clenched jaw, but in a calm and menacing tone, while giving him a look that let him know that A, I truly did not work there, and B, he just effed up. This time, he looked at me with a little bit of fear and slight disbelief in his eyes, but made the poor decision to continue along with his tirade. He'd already gone this far, why not? But made it significantly wiser decision by turning around and walking away while he did it, trailing off into a whisper as he went to meet who I assume is his wife that was now nearby. There I stood in complete disbelief at what had transpired, with multiple strangers just staring at me. I decided that this was all a bit too surreal and that I should probably leave before things escalated any further and something bad happened. With my stained white undershirt, I walked out to my Jeep that still had an Illinois license plate on it that I hadn't gotten around to changing since my recent move. I sat there for a few minutes, calming myself down from something that nearly went very poorly. I pulled out, and as I drove by the front of the store, guess who came strolling out with his wife? I rolled down my window, threw up my middle finger, and yelled, "Look at my plate, you effing moron! I don't effing work here!" For anyone that might be curious, my date graciously forgave my Slavic looks, and we are still together today. I love happy endings. And our next story. My fiance is not my supervisor, sir. The incident occurred while I was actually at work, doing my job. I work at a landscape supply store that sells mulch, and I'm the only office worker. My duties include waiting on all of our customers, and I work out of an office. The way my office is set up, I don't have a break or back room I can retreat to. I wait on customers out of this office, and I continue to wait on them even if I'm currently eating lunch. I'm not a fan of this setup, but I have no say in the matter. I also wear a bright pink shirt with the name of the business I work plastered all over it. So this happened yesterday when my fiance came to my office with lunch. He came from his own job and was wearing his work outfit, which does not look anything like mine or any of my coworkers. He sat down to eat with me. A customer came in while we were eating, so I stopped eating and went to wait on him. I greeted him, and then he stared at me for a few seconds before looking at my fiance. Customer: "Hi, I'd like to buy some mulch." I ignored the fact that he asked my fiance this. Me: "Sure, what kind and how much?" Customer, still directed to my fiance: "Well, what kinds do you have?" Me: "We have dyed black and brown and an undyed mulch." At this point, he finally looked at me. Customer: "You should really let your supervisor answer customers' questions when he's around." I was a little shocked by this, but I answered, "Me? Oh, you mean my fiance? He doesn't work here." When the customer heard this, his face got red and he walked out without buying anything. Well, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.